My name's Jhone Ralston. I'm the CEO of the Nevada Independent. You can clap for the Nevada Independent if you want. That's fine. Good. We are thrilled to be back at the beautiful Fontainebleau, Las Vegas. Is this a great property or what? And I have to always thank Maurice Wooden and Stacy Michaels from the property. They have been great hosts to us for a long time now and putting on these events, and it's great to see this large crowd out there. I also want to thank Dawn Hamilton, who I see back there, and the rest of the volunteers. I even got my stepdaughter, Jordana DeBello, recruited tonight to check people in. I hope you saw her. She's, I'd like to say she's doing it because she loves her stepfather, but it's something to do with National Honor Society credits or something. So thanks to all of you for coming tonight. I'm not going to go on for too long. Some of you will be surprised to hear that. But without the support of folks like you and companies like the Fontainebleau and others that I'll get to in a second, we could not survive. We're a nonprofit. If you already are a donor to the Indy, thank you very much. If you're not, the exit is that way. I'm kidding, but please, my staff does a tremendous job. We just won 8 first-place awards in the State Press Association over the weekend. Thank you. We have come a long way in a little more than 8.5 years, but there's a long way to go and there's a lot more to do. And never has the job of journalism been more difficult and more important. And so I want to thank everybody who's supporting us just by being here tonight. Donate, increase your donation, tell your friends. I want to talk a little bit about, before we get started, about our generous sponsors. I mean, we are so thrilled that so many of these folks want to sponsor us. I'm going to read their names really quickly. I already mentioned the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas, UNLV, the Andre Agassi Foundation for Education, PNC Bank, Olympia Companies, CGI, the Raiders, sorry Raiders, Southwest Gas, Nevada Association of School Administrators, Core Construction, Local Union 357, Opportunity 180, the Nevada Treasury, through the Abbey Agency, Latin Chamber, the Nevada Center for the Future of Learning, and the Vegas Chamber. Please give them a round of applause. Before we start this discussion, I want to remind everybody that one of the things that we do at the Indy is we try to have elevated civil conversations. So please, no hissing or booing. Yeah, Ed, I'm looking at you. And if you want to clap, it's fine, but only after I say something. Some of you may have seen that there were note cards when you get checked in. I think there may be some on the tables. If the superintendent says anything that makes you want to ask her a question, let us know, and someone will pass me those cards. And towards the end of the hour, we'll ask some of your questions. So without further ado, I want to introduce our guest tonight. Jhone Ebert's been in education for 3 decades with a Master's of Education in Instructional and Curricular Studies from UNLV and a Bachelor of Arts in, I did not know this, in math from California State University. We've got to check out your math with the school district finances, so we'll get to that. Before becoming the superintendent of the 5th largest school district in the country, she was the state superintendent. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Superintendent Ebert. And asking most of the questions tonight is our phenomenal education reporter, Rocío Hernández. If you do not read her newsletter or read her stories, you're missing out. She came to us from an NPR affiliate. She does a fantastic job on education, and I'm looking forward to her being a thorn in the superintendent's side for a long time. So, Rocío, thanks for being here tonight, too. You ready, Madam Superintendent?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I've been waiting for this.
All right, good. So, the Clark County School District for years, I'm going to start with an easy one, okay? The Clark County School District for years has struggled with its reputation in the community. But you've wanted this job for a while. I think you've applied for it a few times. The question is why, and why are you the right person for the school district this time in history?
Yeah, so I was in the Clark County School District for 25 years. I left to go to New York for 4, came back, state superintendent for 6, and this job became available. And it's coming home. I mean, it really is coming home. I loved the district. When I left it, I had 10 different jobs. I started as a classroom teacher, mathematics. I didn't know you didn't know that.
I didn't.
So Von Tobel Middle School. And then, yeah, we can do Woo Von Tobel. Absolutely. Oh, I know, no. Jhone, did you say we could clap?
Clapping for Von Tobel is fine. It's a venerable name in the community.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Absolutely. And then had, 10 different jobs, loved every single one of them, but wanted to expand and see something beyond the Clark County School District. And so went to New York. As many of you know, very different place in many different ways, and then was called back home to be the state superintendent. So when I looked at, coming home and having the opportunity, the school district right now at this moment in time, the entire state at this moment in time has massive opportunity to shift PK-12 education. And I am here to help transform and lead with many of the people. There's a lot of educators in this room, and our higher education system and our partners and all of that. But this is the time for Southern Nevada to really look at education and transform it. And yeah, I could go on and say a bunch of other things, but that's pretty much it.
Well, we're not going to let you go on forever, but before I let Rocío jump in, you say it's the right time to transform the school district. You have had a lot of experience, both here and elsewhere. You've had a chance to look at all of the school districts in your role as state superintendent. You know what the issues are. Every superintendent, I've covered way too many, I don't want to date myself, but they always come in like you do, all optimistic and, unicorns and rainbows and all the rest of it. And then by the end, they're taking their Peloton bike and leaving. And so the bottom line is that put some heft behind that optimism of yours. Tell us why you think now is the time.
It didn't just happen overnight where we're at. It has taken many years. We, number one, have finally made a determination that we're going to invest a little bit in education, and that the funding formula was 54 years old. In 2019, that is the reason why I came home. People said, I got phone calls, you need to come home, new governor, all the things. And I'm like, well, why do I need to come home now? I'm in a state that funds education $24,000 per kid. I'm going back to a state that gives $8,000 per kid. Help me do the math there. But everyone said, we're ready to change the funding formula. We're all in, we're going to do it. And I said, okay, I will if everybody's saying they're ready to look at the formula, because many of you have heard Jeremy speak, and it's true, right? Where did the marijuana money go? Well, now I can tell you, because of the 2019 legislative session, every single penny of the marijuana money is going to K-12 education, as intended. But that's the big reason to come home, and why now. So that money now is coming into education. We started this school year with the fewest vacancies in the last decade, and that's because of the funding. We're paying wages. People want to stay. They see themselves in the job, so they're in it for the long haul. So that investment, and then the whole education environment from the pandemic. We have had our children for centuries sitting in rows, not in every single classroom, but still in many, and our children don't want to sit in rows. You will have a hard time, right, sitting here for an hour. Who wants to listen to three of us for an hour? You're going to want to get up at some point and do something different. And our children are begging us as adults to change the entire education system. And understanding the policy, being the state superintendent, and what those pieces. So I have an advantage in this job at this moment in time, because I understand the funding model, how the dollars are flowing. I understand the policy work that happens during the legislative session. I've put an amazing team around me, Dr. Jesse Welsh as a deputy superintendent, Felicia Gonzalez. They too left the school district and now have come back. Kirsten Sear as well. And so assembling the team that has had experiences outside of the Clark County School District, now bringing it back in together and pulling all of those pieces. Someone asked me, what is the biggest aha too at this moment in time for my job, and that I learned, and I kept hearing, at the state level, and even I'm really going to get you guys, ask you to believe, invest, and be proud when you're a CCSD graduate. Rocío's a CCSD graduate, and she's sitting here, just won an award, national stage, all of the things. But the people within our school district are amazing. They have not felt, whether they have been or haven't been is something different, but their feeling of not being empowered to do their job it has just been this massive wet blanket. And in a short period of time, knowing that every single person in our entire system, principals, students are empowered as well, turning on that light for them and saying, yes, you are all empowered at this moment in time, and we are going, we'll have the accountability piece, but it's not going to be up front of telling you what to do each and every day. So a couple of things to point to, just the knowledge, skill, background. Yes, I'm older than I look, and I don't mind saying that. I own that. But those, life experiences, knowing where all the dead bodies are, it is important to move. And we know we're Southern Nevada. We're Nevadans. Home means Nevada. We are a different breed, and being one of Nevada, coming home and being here in Southern Nevada, it is the right time, and I am the right person, and I love it.
Okay, that's all the time we have. Thanks for coming. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Rocío.
So one of the things that, we talked about right now is teacher vacancies. And I was wondering if you could break down for us a lot of the misconceptions that we've seen, even with that great news. There's a lot of people in the community that still don't trust or believe that that's possible, that CCSD could reduce its teacher vacancies. So I was wondering if you could break that down a little bit for us. One of the theories is that because of last year's budget issues, a lot of these vacancies were cut because of cut staffing positions. So I was wondering if you could break it down for us. Is that accurate? Like, how much of it, the vacancy reduction, is because of surplusing staff positions?
0. We have the highest number of licensed educators that we've ever had in the Clark County School District. Ever. The highest number of licensed educators. When people are having a hard time, that money that I just spoke about, right, that created more positions within the Clark County School District. So we actually have more positions. Class sizes are not going up because they're actually going down because we have more positions because of the funding, the investment that was made. What people get confused, and we've been doing this again, I came here in '89, teachers move, when school starts and kids are finally seated. Some schools have more students than were projected, other schools have less students. So people still will have jobs, sometimes though they don't take that because they chose that they want to be at a specific school, and now they're going to go to a different school. So we have the most ever licensed teachers. The movement of teachers doesn't mean that the class sizes are going to grow. They've grown in another part of our school district, and so they are going to move physically themselves. I wouldn't say, and what's hard too, is because we are so large, 374 schools, right? 374 principals. That's not to say in one school maybe a class size did go up because they eliminated a second grade teacher at that school. So everything is not absolute. But in totality, we have lowest class sizes that we've had in a very long time, the most licensed educators that are staying with us, which will help with our student achievement, right? They know their community, they know their families, and the great data that just came out too, that I'd have to share at some point.
Yeah, so for me, that case brought up something for me of like, while there was many people that were excited about your hiring, there's still a sector of the community that still doesn't believe that the district can turn itself around. How do you get those people to be convinced to trust the district again and rebuild that relationship with the community that has been broken for a few years now?
Yeah, you get out there, and thank you for inviting me to this. You have to be out and about and to hit that narrative head on. People in this room, how many of you are CCSD graduates? Yeah, there we go. Raise your hands high, you're proud, everything. Are you successful? Yes, okay. We have amazing people that have graduated from our schools, but we, for some reason, don't celebrate it as much. And I see Jeff here at the front, NASA, he's a CCSD graduate. I think he's doing pretty well now. Wouldn't you say so, Jeff? You hope so, no. He's very humble. But lifting up the community, and Rocío, I don't know if you knew, but can y'all hold up your little flags that we gave you? There we go. We've got CCSD on one side and Believe on the other. So she did not know. We planted that.
So now we know what you did with all the extra money you got from Mill State.
Right. Well, we have people that believe in CCSD today. And the thing is, we know that people that want to believe in CCSD, but they're not there yet, they want to. And, being proud that we're CCSD graduates, that we believe in our schools. We have Coronado High School graduates in here. We have Desert Pines. We have nationally recognized schools, but yet we continue to circle the wagons and shoot inward, which I still don't understand. Community members as well will say, CCSD, stop. Like, the noise and shooting inward has got to stop. And lifting up and lifting what people are doing every single day is what I'm here for now at this moment in time. Getting out, I went to all the editorial boards. They even, and thank you for having me as well. But 3, 8, 13, Fox 5 have all said they haven't had a superintendent come and speak with them. And so they're reporting, and I love reporters as long as they're fair and accurate. And Rocío's heard me saying in a mealtime, fair and accurate. If we are not doing something right as a Clark County School District, report it. And we'll get it fixed if it's within our power. If it's something that's happening at the federal level, we'll be transparent about that. So transparency, fair and accurate on both sides, changing that narrative, and people, holding their head high. Graduates, Kirsten is working very hard. We want to get alumni, and I know the Public Education Foundation has started that work as well, lifting up graduates that have been extremely successful. I heard Credit Karma, the graduates are from Chaparral High School. Yeah, there you go, Shap's in the house. So just recognizing our own community, and I think that's just part of how fast we've all grown, right? When I started in the district, there were 120,000 kids. And with the other night, Governor Bryan was there, and he was saying the only high school was Las Vegas High School when he was going. Well, he's 88 now, so there was a point where everybody knew each other in Las Vegas High School. But we have so many people that have come from other places that don't know, and they just hear this narrative that isn't what truly is the Clark County School District.
Well, so and we had another good news recently, right, with the drop of the new state star rating data. I was wondering if you can get into it a little bit, because while we see that there's some progress, there's a lot more work to be done. And I was wondering if you could explain to us, why we still keep seeing lingering effects of COVID. How much did that affect students, and how long do you anticipate it'll take for us to catch up, and what can we do to address it?
Yeah, the Clark County School District was one of the only large urban school districts that kept the kids out for almost 2 years. I called many, many times and spoke with the former administration and said, you've got to get the kids back into school. We had all the data about health and distance and all the things, right? And I'll give a huge shout out to Faith Lutheran. They did a phenomenal job during the pandemic of getting their kids back into school. Washoe County School District, I highlighted many, many times as well. They had A/B days. They never kept any of their kids out of school. Their kids were, there was choice. So it was interesting to see. A third chose to come to school every single day. A third did every other day. And then a third, so about 20,000 each, they didn't want to come onto campus. And we get it. We're dealing with a pandemic, so many unknowns. But they created the environment where parents had choice. You know, do you want to come 100% of the time? Do you want to come every other day? Do you want to not come to school? And they provided that. The Clark County School District kept children out 100%. There wasn't the choice there. And so we're seeing that residual effect of not having children in a classroom with their teachers, with other students for learning. So this is the year that we're going to get back pre-pandemic. We had a lot to celebrate. 70% of our schools went up in their index scores this last school year. 70%, I'll clap. 40% of them increased their star rating. And some of them had, 3-star increases. And that is a massive lift. You're increasing not just one subject area, but mathematics, English language arts, as well as attendance. It's a big part of how we in Nevada rate our schools. So there is a lot to celebrate, and everyone has worked very, very hard.
Do you feel like we kept schools closed for too long then here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The students were out, and I've said this publicly even during the pandemic. The kids were out way too long.
So let me just jump in here a second. I mean, I had some experience with this. I had a kid who was in public school at the time during the remote learning, and there's all over the country now, there's all kinds of recriminations about kids, incalculable damage maybe being done to kids who were out too long. So you come in and you know that this has happened, and you know that some of these kids might be struggling because of that. What is the policy or policies that can be implemented to try to ameliorate what happened? Because, as you say, there's a lot of parents think they were out too long.
Yeah. And I've been caught on this saying it, but I'm proud saying it. Extend the school day, right? And the school year. That is the only way. They lost time. You have to bring the time back. And we have several schools that have added time. They do have, but it's by choice. The principals have their budget, make the determination to extend the school day, as well as the school year. We in Nevada have one of the shortest school days in the nation, literally. And we want to compare ourselves with a very short period of time to kids that are, in school for 8 hours. Our kids are not in school for 8 hours. They, the experiences, and some teachers are like, well, they don't want to just have more of the same. And that's exactly it. They don't want to have more of the same. The districts that have longer school days do have more engagement in activities, whether it is electives, getting out into the community during the school day. So they have internships, all of those pieces. It is thinking about classroom time differently as well, which we have several schools, principals that are looking at skill and time and how we look at the school day. So yes, it is a massive shift and finding the resources for our kids about time, and also clearly articulating to our parents where their children are, which I hope we did as a district with your children as well.
So I wanted to shift to a different piece of news related to teachers. Some who are facing, I guess, frustrations from the community about comments that they've made after the passing of Charlie Kirk. So I was wondering if you could explain to us, what's the district's policy on employees' freedom of speech? How do you monitor that? I mean, do you rely on community complaints, or does the district monitor it itself? And how do you determine whether something crossed the line and went too far, and what are the consequences for crossing that red line, I guess?
As a school district and a nation, everyone is dealing with that. I definitely believe in First Amendment rights. So, some people are like, where is the First Amendment? 100% First Amendment rights. And where in a school building, my responsibility to make sure that all of our children and our staff are safe. And what has transpired is created an environment that is not healthy for learning. So those teachers at those schools where they have been disruptive are not working in face-to-face in those classrooms, but they are still working. It is still to be determined, I think, nationally on what's going to transpire. Because back in the day, and I can't remember if it was your article, I think it was, or someone else about, with the internet, you're not, everyone hears. You are yelling fire in a crowded theater because every single person globally can hear what you're saying. And as an educator, you have, connections with families, with students every single day, with parents, and they see and hear what's there as well. As far as our community itself, I am a community solve community problems. As I started this evening, we're a different state, and so working with the trustees, who I'm very blessed to work with 11 trustees, looking at policies that we have within the Clark County School District. If there are additional policies that need to be made, then the board will look at that, but it's evolving.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too. With this politically charged environment, how do you move forward, as these complaints come in from probably both sides, right? As we continue and move forward and seeing this, again, I guess, division.
Yeah, so some of you may know, some of you may not know. I was appointed by a Democratic governor, Governor Steve Sisolak, and then reappointed by Governor Joe Lombardo, a Republican governor. That is very unique. Sometimes even when you stay within the same party, the Secretary of Education, the state superintendent, the commissioner, whatever it's called, changes out with whoever the governor is. I attribute that to staying laser focused every single day on children, right? Every single day. We in our classrooms, we grow Democrats, we grow Republicans, we grow independents. That is what we're teaching kids to think critically, to be able to communicate, to get their points across. So when you're laser focused on the children and not engaging in all the noise that is happening, which there's a lot of noise out there, it's a lovely job to lift up our kids, support our teachers, making sure that they have the resources that they need to grow and thrive and achieve I will say it doesn't mean that I don't hear believe me, I hear everything, but we need to stay focused on the work of educating our children.
Yeah, I also wanted to follow up with you on something else that we reported on, again, involving politics creeping into schools, right? With the immigration enforcement ramping up across the country and how that's been affecting schools. When we talked, I think it was before the beginning of the school year, you had said that you had received assurances from federal officials that they would not be coming into schools to do immigration enforcement. But I'm wondering what you've seen so far now, a few weeks into the school year. How are immigrant students and families feeling? And has that shifted at all, the promise that you got from federal authorities?
They're still fearful. Families are fearful. They're, again, all of the noise that's out there, and I shouldn't say just noise. In other states, we've seen even near the schools where immigration comes and takes parents away, right there near the school grounds in front of their kids, all of that. I've had, not only, because that was one of the big things I was very fearful of when I very first started. So right away met with HSI, and then also just a few weeks ago, and in between, Chief Blackeye met with HSI and Border Patrol, and I've met with HSI again within the last few weeks. They have a job, they have business to do, but they are conducting it outside of our schools. That doesn't mean that it would change via directive one day, something's gonna happen, but that tight communication, he has my cell phone, my personal cell phone, my work cell phone, all those things that if something changes and they have a warrant where they do need to come onto campus, all of our principals have been trained and provided support of when that happens, the process that they are to follow. We've shared the Attorney General's guidance and advice for families being prepared that if it does happen, that they have documented, birth certificates that are with family friends. And so we've supported in that way, trying to calm the fear. I'm happy to report to you that we were really fearful as a school district that many children would not show up because of that, but the data doesn't show that that's the case, which I'm very happy about, but that doesn't, the data shows that, but that doesn't mean that people still aren't afraid.
Yeah, when I spoke to families, some of them told me that they've been considering shifting to charter school or homeschool or keeping their kids on online learning. So I was wondering if the situation were to change and immigration enforcement does happen at schools, is there anything that the district is considering to do stronger other than the resolution that you do have already in place to protect these students and keep them safe so that they can access their learning? Like, for example, in LA Unified, I saw that they were offering more transportation so that parents might not have to put themselves at risk taking their students to school, for example.
Yeah, we haven't seen that they're not taking the kids to school. So if that becomes an issue, then yes, we're prepared to address it. The component of learning, some parents have opted for online learning, which we have for all of our kids. And so those that haven't want to send their child to a campus, we do have the ability for online learning now. We make sure that they are aware that that is an option. But the kids are coming to school. They need to know that we want them in school, that our schools are safe, and we continue getting that word out. And thank you for continuing to get that word out also.
Rocío, let me just jump in on both of these issues, because I think Rocío described it very accurately. It's a very politically charged atmosphere now in this country, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, I think. And you have to deal with this in a unique way because you're dealing with children, especially. And so this issue of, in the wake of the horrific killing of Charlie Kirk, of people who are interacting with kids every day, essentially celebrating, employees of the Clark County School District celebrating on social media this assassination. And now I've seen, and you've said this tonight, well, they're not in the classroom anymore, but they're not fired. And I'm not suggesting what you should do. I don't think this is easy, but I don't understand what that means. What are they doing if they're not in the classroom and they're still employed as people instructing children in the Clark County School District? What are they doing?
Yeah, so they still have to do lesson plans, making sure that the continuation of learning is happening. They do reports with their principal, and they are Clark County School District staff members. So there is a process that we have.
Is there a line that can be crossed where you would consider, or the principal would consider, firing an employee? I mean, is there a social media policy that says you shouldn't be doing X, Y, or Z? Because surely, I mean, trust me, I know this from having a teenager at home, that they are very savvy with social media. They will see all of this stuff eventually, and it's going to be very upsetting to some of them, I would guess. So, and again, I stress to you, I don't think this is an easy issue.
It's not.
And no one believes in the
It is
First
not.
Amendment, as you might imagine, more than I do. But you're the superintendent of a school district with impressionable kids of all ages, and you have this horrible thing happen in a politically charged atmosphere that's being exploited. By the way, there's some moron running for state treasurer who is doing a petition to get the licenses revoked of some of the people that we're talking about. People want to exploit this stuff. So you're caught in the eye of the hurricane, so to speak. So at some point, you're going to have to make some decision about whether to let these people back into the classroom. And I'm just trying to get inside your head here. And what is your thought process on how you deal with this?
So you've named all those things that need to be looked at, right? There is not a clear path to all of those pieces. We have, the First Amendment, people's rights themselves. We have the protection of our children, and there are personnel issues. And so all of those pieces that you mentioned are those things that come together to find that path forward.
So you really don't know what you're going to do you?
I'm working with my lawyers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I won't press you any further on that. I just want to ask one more question about the issue of immigration. And I think you've taken a very admirable stand about what you're going to do to protect campuses and what your feelings. But ICE doesn't have to listen to you, do they? I mean it.
No, I know. I
Right?
like that they are currently. I mean, it's they do not report to the
Right.
superintendent of the Clark County School District. They are the federal agency. But opening up that dialogue so that if they need to pivot because of a directive above them, that we have the communication. I mean, that's, the communication, building the trust, making sure that our families are safe. Those are all things that, as the superintendent, have to make sure that we cover that entire gamut with my team.
Neither of these issues are something you considered you'd have to deal with when you first applied for the job.
Yeah, no, that was not on the job application.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with First Amendment rights and all of those things? But years of experience have taught me is to not move quickly. Do not do blink reactions on anything. And again, making sure that our staff and our students are safe. That is my core. We do teach mathematics, literacy, all of those pieces, but if they are not in a safe environment, then they can't get to the mathematics.
Right.
Yeah, I think something that you probably were prepared for when you signed up for the job was the district facing financial challenges. And you have a unique perspective on that because you got to oversee that as state superintendent, and now you're living it as the district superintendent. So I was wondering if you could catch us up on what happened in 2024 and where things are right now with the district. I think we've been hearing reports that the district lost some students and therefore the revenue that you projected to have is down, and how it's affecting schools.
Yeah, so two pieces there. We as a district projected fewer students. We knew that, we had 25,000 kids graduate and 18,000 kindergartners come in the door. So we can do the math, mental math there. That's happening nationally. We're declining in our birth rate. I was hoping that we would be up in enrollment this year. We went knocking on doors to make sure, but you have fewer students, and so that means fewer dollars flowing to the school district. So that was part of our, we came in even under that projection by about 3,600 kids. And so it's $9,501 that is provided from the state as the base amount. And then we have the weights. So and that's been done through a lot of research, our ELL kids, it's 0.35 added to that. So it's roughly $3,400. For our students that are not on track to graduate with their peers at risk, it's $4,200 additional. So you have that base of $9,500, and then you add, for those that have the steepest climb, additional resources are provided for them. When you add that into totality, we also didn't project the number of at-risk students that the state, because that only comes out after the budget has come through. So we under-projected by 36 million for at-risk students. What we made the determination, though, is that those dollars would not be, with my team, made the determination, would not be borne by, and I'm sorry, I keep pointing this way because we've got some principals right here in front, that they would not take the hit for that 36 million. And so we used the central office dollars to make sure that they could continue to receive those dollars that they expected. That part of the funding formula, it needs to be adjusted, in my personal opinion. There's many people as well, because it's hard. It's innovative. Nevada has the most, in fact, several states, after we did the funding formula here in 2019, several states used the model that we started for funding, Tennessee being one, their students. So and this is what I'm talking about, we lead the way in so many things, but we never celebrate that. We never lift it up as much. People follow what we do in K-12 education all over the nation, but we do have that F word, that funding, that just doesn't get there for us. And if we only got to the average, like this place would, the learning and the resources that would be made available would be phenomenal. But now I lost track of what I was saying. So where were we?
Well, if you want to get into a little bit more of that funding, the last time we talked, you had mentioned that you are supporting, in the interest of getting more funding for schools, some changes maybe to property tax reform or sales tax reforms, things that the Commission on School Funding has recommended for the state to look at as areas of where we can pick up more revenue to better fund our schools. How would you convince state lawmakers who maybe are on the fence about it, of that, not a politically popular idea, and how would you convince the community to, I guess, tax themselves more?
Yeah, so if the team back there with the slides, if you could pull up the third slide, investments are making a difference, that would be, I think, very helpful. Every single time that the legislature has made a determination to invest in education, every single time, education system has shown a return on investment, have increased. As I said earlier, do we have that slide?
I'm looking for it. Do we have the slide somewhere? Does someone have control of? There we go. Is that the one you're talking about, or a different one?
Two more.
Two more.
We'll talk about destination district in a moment. Investments are making a difference. It's okay, I can talk about it without them. I just thought it would help the audience. Okay. Yeah, there we go. What I was talking about earlier, right, with the number of licensed teachers, improved teacher retention, that's because all of this data is because of the investment that we have made a determination to make. And so the Commission on School Funding has been looking at, where do you get the additional revenue, right? We've got the marijuana tax, we have mining tax, we have room tax. All of those dollars now are going into education, and it's still, based on revenue, is only $9,500 as the base. So where else do you get that? And I use this example quite frequently. I loved New York. I miss it, people there. There's someone here that has a Regents diploma. How many other people have a Regents diploma from New York? There we go. Okay, so about a half dozen, of you in the room. It's wonderful. But I was getting ready to buy a $300,000 home in New York. It was gorgeous. Like, way too much square footage than I even needed. It probably was like 3,000 square feet, wood floors, all the things. My taxes, $1,000 a month. That's what I was going to pay on a $300,000 home. I came back home. I still wanted to spend $300,000, bought a nice place in Carson City, 1,400 square feet, built in 1961, a little, a nice place, 1,400 square feet. My taxes for the year that first year, $967 for the entire year for buying a $300,000 home. So I'm not saying that we need to, go all the way to the New York. What I'm saying is we need to look as Nevadans. If we want student achievement, if we want things to go up in a positive way, we need to make an investment. Our children, right, make up about 20% of the population right now. They are 100% of our future. We need to make those investments.
Can I just ask a question? I just want to let everybody know we started a little bit late, so we'll finish up about 7:40. We have about 15, 20 minutes left. Just so you know, we'll get to some audience questions in a second too. But I want to ask you something about that because you've used this word once or twice, and I've heard about the narrative that's out there, right, about the school district. And some of the statistics up there, which it's great that they're going up, but I doubt, considering I know that you to be a person who's really dedicated to education, and it is quite a trick to get a Democratic and Republican governor to think you're all that and keep you honest. States, that's impressive to me actually, but these numbers are not. Like, you're not proud that we got to 40% in 8th grade math proficiency or 46% in increased That's still embarrassing in a way, isn't it, for the state?
We're not where we need to be in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, so thank you for checking that. I know, we all know that we're not where we need to be. But to expect these amazing educators and children to all of a sudden be the same as another state that has 3 times the amount of resources. I never walked into a classroom in New York that had more than 22, 23 kids, ever. They all had social workers, they all had school psychologists, they had counselors just for college and career ready. Would you love to have a counselor that's just dedicated to college? And yes, yeah, the funding is not there. They can't invent it and expect all these different, the outcomes that are expected with the resources that are provided. There is a misalignment.
It's interesting you mention that because I've had, experience with a lot of teachers and principals, and I always say the same thing to them. They're doing the Lord's work, and they really are. And most teachers, almost every teacher I've ever met or principal is super dedicated, and they're working sometimes under, poorly funded circumstances. But there's the other side of that. I'll use the word narrative, which is everyone's, what are you going to do? You're just going to pour money into a bad system. There's not enough accountability for where that money would go. And by the way, you just said very articulately, I thought, where some of the money could go to get more counselors, to get more, and especially now, mental health professionals, to get, by the way, more security, something that my parents didn't have to think about when I was in school for some of these campuses. You're talking about where some of the money could go. The problem is this narrative is still out there, and there's somewhere between that narrative and reality, right? And too much of it is real for folks like this who are in these schools. So how do you get that message out there? I think it's really difficult. How do you get it out there that we're not just pouring money down a rat hole? We're not just going to put money into a failed system, which is another narrative certain people put out there. How do you do that as the leader of the school district?
So if we'll go back to the first slide, the narrative.
Can we go back to the first slide, please?
That has our vision. And that is Destination District, right? Lifting up those positive pieces, because money isn't the only solution. It is part of the solution. And it's getting our staff, yes. It's making sure that our students are achieving. 100% of our students, not just students in a certain zip code, that it's 100%. I was very intentional when we did the release of our star ratings. I went to Quantico, which is on Cary, North Las Vegas. The school's built in the 60s, the neighborhood, free and reduced lunch, 100%. Just because you're free and reduced lunch does not mean you can't achieve. That is a 4-star school. They are making great gains. And so it's a combination of an entire system, an entire community. This is not a me district, it's a we district. Every single person. And it's engaging something that we haven't done even when I was here a decade ago. We didn't invite the people, like I see some people that they might not have kids in the school district at this moment in time, but I need them to be part of our community. I need them to help understand that, they want doctors, they want lawyers, they want a good plumber. We have kids that want to go directly into the workforce. We have apprenticeships that they can go right into plumbing, HVAC, those things that don't require a college degree. And we want them to be, that starts in our K-12 public school system, making sure that they're ready. So all of those components right now working together to make sure that even people that don't have kids in the school participate in the process, changing that narrative. And then the next slide right after this one, please. The first 100 days document, and if you scan on the back of the sheet that we provided you here, the front of it has a lot of infographic components to what we've accomplished. Thank you so much for those getting those slides up. But, back to getting out and about, I don't know how many times people have said, I haven't seen a superintendent in this area, that venue, have a conversation. Like, I've been doing the thing, and I'm thankful for the school board trustees that have supported me in doing that, and again, the whole entire team moving forward. But as we, trying to change the narrative, making sure that staff know they're empowered to do their work, their job, and getting the whole entire community to come together. We're going to launch our strategic planning session, which is number 3 on here. I invite all of you, to, have your friends and neighbors, if you can't come to our face-to-face meetings that we have, that you are engaged online in the survey of what are those things that in the Clark County School District to get to the next level, right? We do have great schools, but what is it that you see as individuals that will help and what can you help with to get to that next level? Chris Heavey, president currently, thank you, UNLV. Yes, right here to the left. I do not mind stealing great ideas from other people, and so I sent him, my colleague in Denver has partnered with the university there of automatic enrollment into the higher education system, right, without the application fees and everything else. I'm like, why aren't we doing that? He's like, okay, we're going to get on it. Now I just said it out in public, so now he has to really do it? But, there are things that we can do, removing roadblocks for kids, even while they're in the K-12 system, to go into the higher education system. So I need all of your help as well. As we move forward. And I do, since I have the mic and it is hot, want to call out my trustees that are here this evening. We have President Irene Bustamante Adams. I saw you earlier. Where are you? She's not very tall, so if she's standing. Where are you, trustee? Okay, maybe she had to take off. We also have trustee Emily Stevens, District A. There she is. Okay, and we have Trustee Henry, who is District C. Thank you, Trustee Henry, for being here as well.
Okay, that concludes the suck up to the bosses portion of the program. So let me let Rocío ask one more question, then I'll ask a couple from the audience, and we'll wrap it up, okay?
Yeah. So now that you are seeing some improvement, right, in student achievement, I was wondering if you've come back to Governor Lombardo and asked him whether he does have appetite to increase funding for education. As he said that, he wants to see accountability. It looks like, you've made some of his goals happen. So is there that appetite from him and the legislature to do that?
I've asked them all to increase the funding for education. He has been, he's going to be running 2026. He has promised no new taxes at this moment in time. I hope he changes his mind and that others do as well when we can show this data that when you make the investments, again, we don't very often, well, what is in the 50, Jeremy Aguero is excellent at this. I need to get the automaticity that Jeremy has around in the 50s, but Nevada was like second or third. Oh, Jesse, you probably know, third highest per pupil funding in the United States, and we were one of the highest achieving school districts in the United States. There is a correlation there, and we need to find that middle ground. Again, I'm not saying to go to 24,000, but we've got to get out of 9,000.
So let me just ask a couple of these questions from the audience, and I will say that I've been doing this a little bit too long, but I don't think that the governor's going to change his no new taxes promise during that. But you can try. So someone wants to know what the current strategies are for chronic absenteeism in the district.
Yeah. One of the great pieces of work that we've been 3 years next month is the Nevada Portrait of a Learner. What we realized out of the pandemic is kids aren't coming to school just because of the pandemic and the shift, but we haven't been addressing their needs. They're bored. They don't want to sit in rows, as I said earlier. They want to be engaged. They want to own their own learning. And so with the work around the portrait, we pulled in student voice. And it was amazing to hear, because at first they're like, oh, we're going to pull in the students. They're going to say, adults this, adults that, they're not doing. They were saying they want to learn. They want to be engaged, but we are, top down. And the engagement comes from the environment that they're growing up in. They're engaged they're getting information and feedback on the phone all the time, but not in the classroom. We haven't changed the classroom for hundreds of years, and the children are begging us to do that. So it's changing that learning environment, listening to what the children are saying and what meeting them in their needs and what they're asking for.
So finally, and this is it's a very broad question, but I think it gets to the heart of a lot of stuff you've talked about tonight, and that is, how do you make accountability connect to student outcomes? And I think to some extent, you have a difficult job in the sense that, and so do principals and teachers, and that student outcomes may not be that great for a variety of different reasons, that they're very different at one school to another school. But people are always, especially people in politics, are always saying, I'll give you more money if you give me more accountability. And the only way to really measure if you're being successful as a school district, right, is the student outcomes. Are they doing well? And so how do you connect those two? I think it's an interesting question.
Yeah, a big piece of education right now, and I'll link it back to the beginning of this conversation, is the opportunity right now in education is the metrics that we're using to measure schools, to measure our students, in many ways are outdated. And so looking at, and if I was still in the job as the state superintendent, the accountability system and the education system as a whole, we have children that are engaged. Anybody an Eagle Scout in here? No Eagles? Yeah, there we go. We do have a couple that are, you can raise your hand. Like, why are we not proud of things that are good? Eagle Scout. The children, which my son is an Eagle Scout, but I watched him, the project management, the volunteerism, the fundraising. I mean, I don't know how many Home Depots he went to get, and some Home Depots would only give him one box of nails. And then others would say, whatever you want, we've got all this wood. He ended up building, a bridge with all of his friends, but he should have earned some credit in high school because he demonstrated these skills that we want to go into the workforce. And so how do we measure those skills and capture? It's not, we're capturing an Algebra 1 test, and I love algebra, but that, there's a component that will show success, but there are so many other things that will show student success when they graduate from our schools, and we need to capture those and make them have that accountability piece, but match it up with our business partners.
All right, but before we wrap up, I do just want to say, before I thank everybody for coming, I do want to just say I have to recognize the presence here of a person who was a Clark County School District graduate and should be a model for all of those. And one of my favorite people that I've ever covered in politics, Dick Bryan, is here, and he is.
There he is.
I have to tell you, I mean, the phrase state treasurer is thrown around, but Dick Bryan truly is a state treasurer. His dedication to public life, essentially, since he got out of a high chair, I think, is very, very impressive, and going strong at 88. And I'm thrilled that you came to this event. Thank you for coming. I want to thank Rocío for taking a long time to prepare and asking great questions.
Yes, thank you.
I really want to thank the superintendent for doing this. You didn't have to do this. Your willingness to go and talk to these media editorial boards and come and do something like this. I think it's important because I think a certain openness and willingness to answer questions is really important to get that community engagement that is important. So thank you very much for doing this. And finally, I want to thank all of you for coming. You may have thought that you've had better things to do on a Monday night, watch that Lions-Ravens game. Anyone know the score? And I'm kidding. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for supporting the Indy, and have a good evening, everybody.
Yes, thank you, everyone.